بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And we welcome our brother Nadim for joining us to continue discussions around different topics that inshallah will benefit the community. Jazakallah khair for joining us, brother. So this part we are going to go over result of not following the Quran and Sunnah. We're Muslims and we try to follow Quran and Sunnah as much as we could, but sometimes we just don't. And that's part of it. Or maybe not follow it all the way, but follow parts of it and fail to follow others. So we want to see what's that like and what problems that can cause. Number one is based on you dealing with couples or couples dealing with problems, and they bring it to you to help them deal with it and give them therapy around it, give them plans to deal with it. Do you feel some of it or all of it is caused or is the result of not following Quran and Sunnah?
I mean, I tell couples that you can love each other, but you should love Allah more. Because if you love Allah more than you love each other, because what happens is if you are totally in love with somebody, then and you don't have a good concept of this deen, then you will commit crimes for that person. You will do unethical things for that person. But if you love Allah more, then that other person cannot have you, do a lot of unethical things. There's an old song that in a rhythm and blues song, it says, "If loving you is wrong, I don't want to do right." And this song is about adultery.
Exactly.
The person is from the 60s, but the whole thing is that these are the messages that were given to us growing up. I don't want to do right if loving you is wrong. And the whole thing is that, and I wrote a song about the love of Allah. The love of Allah is the greatest love of all. There was the song called the greatest love of all. And they said in that song, the love of self was the greatest love of all. George Benson, Whitney Houston did it. And so we wrote a song and put it together and called The Love of Allah is the greatest love of all. And so the thing is that if you put Allah first in your marriage, then you can't go wrong.
Absolutely.
You won't engage, because that's what happens with a lot of couples. They are afraid, for instance, if a person is not putting Allah first, whether it's the male or the female, then what happens is that, they will tolerate a lot of abuse, as opposed to saying, okay, well, you need to go and get yourself together. You need to get a healthy relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
That's right.
So that we can rejoin our union, because I will get sick before you will get better if you don't change.
Mm-hmm. SubhanAllah, very, very powerful statement.
Mm.
So do you think is it partly caused because people lack knowledge of Quran and Sunnah and Sharia in general?
That's a part of it. And, I think the thing is that people should, before they get married, they should be equipped as to, what are the responsibilities of a Muslim in marriage. And again, as when we do the premarital sessions, we talk about the role that we talk about the role of faith in your marriage. What is your understanding of your role as a husband? Responsibilities as a husband, responsibilities as a wife. We do a whole thing about the finances, how are you going to be involved if there's an issue of what is your position on if you choose to engage in polygyny, So the thing is that, I'll see people, women specifically, they'll take a shahada at some of the indigenous masjids, and brothers be trying to get them marry them, the next day. And tell them, let the sister learn her religion first. A brother takes shahada, I'm saying learn your religion first.
Of course.
Because otherwise you'll get a man's version of Islam or a woman's version of Islam. And so the thing is that they'll tell you what they want to hear. Oh, in the old days, dowry. Oh, okay, we can give you a couple of dollars for a dowry. As opposed to the dowry is based on the society.
That's right.
And the societal norm.
Common.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so, and when I came into Islam, women were getting, sets of hadith, which, if that's what she wanted for a dowry or, things like that, as opposed to, and then when I moved to the Middle East, I saw really the significance of that. That's security for the woman.
Of course.
But learn your religion before you get married.
Absolutely.
And even if you're born Muslim, doesn't mean that you had no Islam.
Exactly.
And so the thing is to, study, learn, read. There's lots of good books.
People, before they go to a job, they learn how to do it.
Yeah.
And they make sure that when they do it right. So the marriage is more important than that, because you're going to be, the rest of your life with that person.
And plus you impact 2 or 3 generations. People,
yes.
You impact your children, and how you relate to your children, that's how they will relate to their children. So you may impact, several generations based on, how you participate in the marriage.
Exactly. Do you think, let me see if I can say this question in a politically correct. So, do you think that some people don't care about halal and haram because of desires that they want? It's something they want to do, so they disregard that this is haram. They just do it. Do you feel like this has something to do with those problems?
It's just like what's the hadith says that when a person engages in haram, their iman hangs over their head, like a cloud. And then once the act is done, then all of a sudden the iman comes back, and then that's when you start to feel guilt.
Subhanallah.
And so the thing is that we have to start to not associate with people or places or things that will push us towards the haram.
Exactly.
As the Prophet once said, don't go near it. Don't go near it.
Absolutely.
And so, when a person is engaging in it, they don't
stay away from
they're animal.
Yes.
It's in the animal state as opposed to the spiritual state, and so, and that's one of the things, they know they're wrong, but it's called like in psychology, they call it the dissociative state. It's just like a person who has gotten into recovery from drugs, and say they may have been clean for, several years. And then all of a sudden life challenges occur, and they stop working their program. And then before they know it, then drugs, basically become attractive. Alcohol becomes attractive. And it's like their car, I've heard patients describe it, it's like your car is driving itself to the dope house or to the liquor store. You're in like a dissociative state, similar to schizophrenia, when a person is having hallucinations and delusions. So it's basically like an out-of-body experience. And then when they wake up out of a drug binge, it's, what have I done? I've spent up all my rent money. I've done some things that I'm totally ashamed of. Again, because they allow themselves to get into a dissociative state. Because just like who was that? Imam Siraj, he talks about how the iman is a dynamic force. And so his dynamic force is like pedaling a bicycle. You pedal the bicycle, you will move.
Exactly.
If you stop pedaling, you're going to coast. If you don't start pedaling again, you're going to tip over. So it's the same thing with iman. You have to always do things that will increase your iman. And that's making prayers, that's fasting, that's giving charity, that's sitting around people who are going to facilitate that positive.
Study deen,
yes.
Go to halaqat dhikr.
You put yourself in positive environments, and that will help facilitate the iman.
MashaAllah. This is beautiful, brother. Do you have advice for couples who go against Quran and Sunnah to serve self-agendas? I'm going to give you an example of this. So, a wife may decide to stop wearing hijab.
Mhm.
She would go out looking like any American woman, like Muslim. And the husband, because he loves her, instead of he loves God, he would tolerate that, and he would be okay with it, just because he loves his wife and that's what she wants to do. So he would okay it, and so becomes her new norm. She would throw the hijab away. She will go out with all her hair and no hijab, showing like her. So do you have advices for these people, something that make them understand how big of a deal doing something like that?
Yeah, I think those are things that should be talked about prior to marriage. Do you prefer that I wear hijab or not wear hijab, or what would you do if I chose not to do it in certain situations, like specifically within this environment? Specifically, if a person doesn't live in an area where there's a lot of Muslims, the person may choose to take it off, and so it depends on the reason that you're taking it off. If you're just taking it off because I'm in America now, and so I just want to be American. To me, that's an iman issue. And so because the more we cover, basically, it doesn't mean that just because you're wearing hijab or if you're wearing niqab, this doesn't mean that you're a righteous person, But when you basically cover, you are not allowing, you're not basically tempting, the opposite sex. Just like if a man went around, if he's muscular and he's walking around, showing his muscles and everything, then he's tempting other women. And so it's the same thing. If a woman is showing her hair out and showing her body shape and all of that, then that creates a temptation where, you have men who has to put interventions in place where they're not looking at them.
Because lowering your gaze is for both, for men and women.
Yeah, and that's what Allah says, that we should all lower our gaze, and so we should make it easier to lower our gaze. But I think when people decide to, just undress in that way, it's an iman issue.
Yes.
And like I say, if there is not like a danger associated, just like, with the people in Vermont where the young men were shot because they wore kifaya, that type of things. And so, so do you stop wearing a kifaya because somebody is offended by it? And so if they're in a danger zone, then it's not mandatory.
Exactly. It becomes necessity in this case to deal. But I'm talking about in America, we have the freedom to practice our religion, and it's guaranteed by the Constitution. I have not witnessed something like this happening, where a sister or a brother, like when where he's being attacked or somebody. I have not witnessed this myself. I heard about it, seen some on YouTube, but I have not witnessed this myself. Alhamdulillah, I'm here in this country for 23 years. I have not had this problem.
Right.
I go to so many places. I even fly, go to the airport and just like this. Americans in general, they are tolerant to that. They're not. Once they talk to you, they forget how you dress.
Right.
There are few exceptions but that's the exceptions.
Yeah, it's just after 9/11 there was some of that, but like you say, we live in a pluralistic society, and then like even in our community, in African American Muslim community, we asserted ourselves. We wore thobes and go to work, and I remember I had a job and I hadn't changed my name legally, and so I got the job and I went in with a suit, and so I go to work the first day, and I said, well, my name is Ali, and such and such, and I have my thobe on, and that was the worst job I ever had. The supervisor tried to make my life hell on that job, and I promised myself I would never do that again. So if I had to do a job, when I was looking for jobs, I would go in with my thobe. I have a commitment on Fridays, and I didn't have any problems getting jobs. They would make arrangements for Juma for me.
Yeah, exactly.
And so there's no problem. And so we have pluralistic society, but some Muslims treat the religion like a buffet. they'll, okay, I'll
Take
do this. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we need to take the whole of the religion. And then even some of the scholars say to practice as much of the religion as you can in the society, the non-Muslim society, as much as you can,
Absolutely.
without, causing, problems or disruption. Practices as much
Because when we practice, this is not religion, really. This is a cultural thing.
Yeah.
But what I mean, it lets people know that this guy is a Muslim. More than likely, at least they will, and that's the idea. I want people to see Muslims everywhere. Get used to it. We are good people. We are peaceful. You can approach us, greet us, talk to us, discuss Islam or anything else. We are, and that's why I think if more Muslims do that, more people will get used to seeing us and dealing with us. I think that will improve it. But going back to the example of sisters who decides to take off her hijab and quit, stop wearing it. I've heard of cases where, because she works in a company which is she's the only Muslim there, and she's the only woman there wearing hijab, and that bothered her over time, because she sees women around her without hijab. So eventually, it got into her so much she decided she wanted to take it off.
Right.
Which is a problem. I don't know if that's a different question. If she's actually, in Islam, is she allowed to work with men without her husband in present all day long, sometimes in meetings, sometimes even alone with a man? That's a different discussion.
That'd be a fiqh issue.
Exactly. So I don't want to discuss it here, though. But it's something that, you mentioned.
So that's more of a self-esteem issue too.
There you go.
I mean, I have 4 daughters, and all of them, they dress on different levels. They've never taken they work in the corporate world. All of them. And so they assert themselves, and you're federally protected. Just like because what happens in other societies, like in France, where because they see the hijab as the men imposing it on the women, and so they've chosen to create laws. You can't go to a public school or work in a government building if you're covering. So some societies have taken that stance to try to.
Exactly.
You think that the men are being patriarchal in imposing that on that, as opposed to this is something that it's a law imposed.
She was exactly. You already mentioned the sometimes cultural differences, like between in the couple, where one of them from one country and the other one from a different country. They're both Americans now, so that can cause problems. But again, if we go back to the Quran and Sunnah, then the problem can be handled according to the Quran and Sunnah, and then it wouldn't exist. But apparently, it's still there, because you still have couples with that kind of problems.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, is that people a lot of times are not practicing Islam, and when they fight, and so if you basically establish, hey, some couples will put together marital contracts, and in the contract they even have a clause in case of divorce, or if we have a conflict, if we can't resolve it, we take it to the Quran. If we can't resolve it, based on our understanding of Quran or Hadith, then we take it to a knowledgeable person. So you put all of that in the like while you're liking each other. I always encourage couples, put in case of divorce, and what is your mode of conflict resolution. I have a paper that I give my couples. I call it fair fighting rules. And so, and then I'll have them use that as a guideline to establish your own rules of engagement as to how you're going to engage in conflicts. So and that's those are some of the things. But we have to, because again, Shaitan gets in and get that adrenaline starts to rush, and you just vomit on each other.
Like Tyson said, he said everybody has a plan until they get punched.
Yeah, until they get punched in the face.
Yeah. So that's kind of similar here. Subhanallah. Jazakallah khair, brother. That was very beneficial. I learned myself, and I will make sure to actually, as I edit and watch the videos, there are certain terms that you mentioned that I'm going to write and do some research on it. It sounds very interesting. Jazakallah khair, brother. My brothers and sisters in Islam, with this we will end this part of our podcast, and inshallah we will see you again with the final session to cover a different area of the podcast. Jazakum Allah khair. We will see you again, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.